Imagine this. You walk into your IELTS speaking test and you feel ready. The examiner asks you questions and you're not nervous. You know how to organize your ideas and start your answers confidently. You also know how to keep going even when a question is difficult. You leave the room knowing you performed at your best. That kind of confidence doesn't happen by chance. It comes from understanding what the IELTS speaking examiner wants to hear, as well as preparing with the right strategies. Most candidates spend a lot of time practicing English in general. However, they do not spend enough time learning how the speaking test actually works and what it takes to score high. We've helped thousands of students prepare this way through our IELTS packages. They discover how strategic preparation can help them approach the IELTS with more confidence and clarity. In this video, you'll learn 10 strategies that separate high-scoring candidates from low-scoring candidates. If you're serious about achieving a high score in IELTS speaking, stay tuned. By the end of this video, you'll know what to do and how to prepare effectively. The first strategy is to understand how the IELTS speaking test is scored. Many candidates prepare without knowing this, and it puts them at a real disadvantage. When you don't know what the examiner is assessing, you can't aim for the right things. The IELTS speaking examiner scores you across 4 areas. The first is fluency and coherence. This means speaking smoothly and logically without long, uncomfortable pauses. The second is a lexical resource, which refers to the range and accuracy of the vocabulary you use. The third is grammatical range and accuracy, which means using a variety of grammar structures correctly. The fourth is pronunciation. This does not mean sounding like a native speaker. Instead, it means speaking clearly enough that the examiner can easily understand you. Each of these 4 areas carries equal weight in your final score. When you understand this, you can prepare more strategically. Instead of just practicing speaking in general, you can focus on each area. This helps you work on the specific skills that can help improve your score. Think about which of these 4 areas is currently your weakest and make it a priority in your preparation. Strategy number 2 is one that many candidates underestimate. Always give complete, well-developed answers. Short answers are one of the most common reasons candidates score lower than they could. When the examiner asks you a question, your job is not just to answer it. Your job is to show how well you can speak English. A one-sentence answer doesn't give the examiner enough to evaluate. You need to extend your response by adding reasons, examples, and details. For example, if the examiner asks whether you prefer to spend time indoors or outdoors, don't just say, "I prefer outdoors." Instead, say something like, "I prefer spending time outdoors, to be honest. I find that being outside, especially in green spaces or near water, helps me feel much more relaxed and clear-headed. I tend to feel a bit restless if I stay inside for too long." That response shows vocabulary range, grammar variety, and natural spoken English all at once. The length of your answers gives the examiner more material to assess, which can work in your favor. A useful habit to build is to follow your main point with a reason and then an example. This 3-part structure helps you state your idea, explain why, and give an example. It allows you to extend your answers naturally while keeping them focused at the same time. The third strategy is to use a variety of grammar structures throughout your answers. This directly affects your score for grammatical range and accuracy. It is also one of the clearest ways to show the examiner that your English is at a high level. Many candidates rely on simple present and past tense structures because they feel safer. However, high-scoring candidates use a much wider range. For instance, they might use a conditional like, "If I had more free time, I'd probably learn a new instrument." They also incorporate the passive voice to talk about broader trends, saying, "The environment has been significantly affected by industrial growth." You will also hear them use relative clauses to add details, such as, "The city where I grew up has changed beyond recognition." Beyond that, they naturally weave in complex noun phrases, reported speech, and modal verbs to express different degrees of certainty or possibility. You don't need to force these structures into every sentence. The key is to vary the grammar naturally across your answers. When you practice, pay attention to which structures you tend to avoid. Make a point of using them more during your preparation. The more comfortable you are with a wide range of structures, the more naturally they can come out during the test itself. Here is a strategy that can make a noticeable difference to your score. Focus on building your vocabulary, and in particular, your knowledge of collocations. A collocation is a natural word combination that speakers of English use regularly. Getting collocations right helps your English sound natural and fluent rather than translated. For example, instead of saying, "do a decision," you can say, "make a decision." Instead of strong rain, you could use heavy rain. Instead of do progress, you could say make progress. These are not just small differences. Using the wrong collocation makes your English sound unnatural, which can affect your lexical resource score. The best way to build your vocabulary is to read and listen to English regularly. Pay attention to how words are used together in context. When you learn a new word, don't just learn its meaning. Notice which words it tends to appear with. You should also prepare vocabulary for the most common IELTS speaking topics, such as education, technology, the environment, health, and work. Having a strong, varied vocabulary for these themes will help you give richer, more fluent answers during the test. Now, here is an important point. Many IELTS candidates think that knowing a few speaking strategies is enough to achieve a strong result, but it is not enough. To do well in IELTS speaking, you need to understand what the examiner is looking for. For example, you need to use advanced grammar correctly and understand what makes a high-scoring answer. That's exactly what we teach in our IELTS packages. Our students get step-by-step guidance on how to give strong answers, so they feel confident and ready on test day. They learn how the IELTS examiners assess their performance and what they need to do to meet the scoring criteria. Our IELTS packages include lessons for all tasks, sample answers, practice tests, and much more. If you're serious about achieving the IELTS score you need, click the link below to learn more. Strategy 5 is about making your answers coherent and easy to follow. Use linking words and discourse markers throughout your responses. This has a direct impact on your fluency and coherence score, and it is something that high-scoring candidates do naturally. Linking words are words and phrases that connect your ideas together. You can use markers like "firstly," "for instance," and "having said that." When you use these, the examiner can follow your thinking clearly. Your answer doesn't feel like a list of unconnected sentences. Instead, it feels like a structured, logical response. Discourse markers are slightly different. They are expressions that help manage the flow of spoken language, such as, "well, actually, to be honest, the thing is, and what I mean is." English speakers often use these, and they make your English sound natural and fluent. When used appropriately, they also give you a moment to think without creating an awkward silence. Practice using both linking words and discourse markers in your answers so that they come out naturally on test day rather than feeling forced. Let's move on to strategy 6, paraphrasing. In IELTS speaking, paraphrasing means using different words to express the same ideas, rather than repeating the exact language the examiner has used. This matters because it shows the examiner that you have a wide vocabulary and that you can express ideas in more than one way. For example, the examiner might ask, "Do you think cities are becoming too crowded?" Instead of repeating the word crowded straight back, a high-scoring candidate might say, "Yes, I do think urban areas are getting increasingly congested." You can practice paraphrasing by taking common IELTS speaking topics and writing down keywords. From there, think of synonyms and alternative phrases for each one. You can also change parts of speech. For instance, the verb develop can become the noun development or the adjective developed. The more flexible you are with language, the more naturally you will paraphrase during the test. Your lexical resource score can be stronger as a result. Strategy 7 focuses on part 2 of the speaking test, also called the long turn. In this part, you are given a topic card and some time to prepare before you speak for 1 to 2 minutes. Many candidates don't use this preparation time well. Some try to write out everything they want to say, which isn't possible in the time given. Others simply don't know where to start. The most effective approach is to use the time to jot down a few keywords. These should be brief notes that will remind you what to say, not full sentences. Think about the main points you want to cover and the order in which you'll mention them. This gives your answer a clear structure, which supports both fluency and coherence. You should also use the topic card itself as a guide. The card will usually give you several prompt points. Cover each one clearly and add details and examples where you can. Candidates who run out of things to say after only a short time are usually those who didn't use their preparation time effectively. Use every second of it, and you'll find that part 2 becomes much more manageable. By the way, if you want this channel to keep going, write yes in the comments, click like and subscribe. We only make videos that you actually want to watch. Strategy 8 is something that separates low-scoring candidates from high-scoring candidates. It comes down to knowing how to handle a difficult question without losing your fluency or composure. There will be moments in the test when you are asked something you haven't thought about before. You might also just need a few moments to gather your ideas. The worst thing you can do is go completely silent. Instead, use natural fillers and bridging phrases to give yourself time to think. Phrases like, "That's an interesting question," or "I've never really thought about that before," but are completely natural in spoken English. You could also say, "Let me think about that for a moment," to keep the conversation going while you collect your thoughts. If you don't know something, it is better to say so, and then give a related answer than to say nothing at all. You could say, "I'm not entirely sure about that, but from what I understand," or "I don't have a lot of experience with this, but I suppose." These phrases show the examiner that you can manage the conversation confidently. It proves you can keep going even when a question is challenging. Strategy 9 is about being ready for the most demanding part of the test, part 3. In this section, the examiner asks you abstract and analytical questions linked to the topic from part 2. These questions require you to express opinions, consider different perspectives, and talk about causes, effects, and solutions. Candidates who struggle in part 3 are often those who have only practiced simple personal answers. Part 3 asks you to think at a broader level. You need to go beyond just saying, "I think." Instead, focus on explaining why you hold an opinion, acknowledging other viewpoints, and backing up your ideas with examples. Phrases that work well in part 3 include, "There are several reasons why," while some people argue that, others believe that, and it largely depends on. These phrases help you engage with complex ideas and discuss them in a structured, coherent way. The examiner is not looking for specific right answers. They want to see your ability to use English to explore an idea in depth. Make sure your Part 3 preparation is just as thorough as your Part 1 and Part 2 practice. The final strategy ties everything else together. Practice speaking aloud every single day. This sounds simple, but many candidates do most of their preparation in their heads rather than out loud. Thinking through an answer and actually saying it are very different experiences. Only speaking out loud truly prepares you for the real test. When you practice aloud, you train your mouth and your mind to work together under pressure. You start to notice where you hesitate or where your grammar breaks down. You also notice when you reach for a word and can't find it. These are the exact weaknesses you need to identify and work on before your test day. You don't need a speaking partner to practice effectively. Record yourself answering practice questions and listen back to the audio. You'll often hear things in the recording that you don't notice while you're speaking. You can also practice in front of a mirror to get comfortable with a natural, confident delivery. Aim to practice every day, even for a short time. Consistent, focused practice is what builds the fluency and confidence that can help you score high in IELTS speaking. That's it. These are 10 strategies for IELTS speaking. If you want expert guidance for your IELTS preparation, check out our IELTS packages using the link below. Our packages include step-by-step guidance, sample answers, practice tests, and other useful resources to help you feel confident on test day. I hope you liked this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell icon so you're notified when the next video comes out. Also, share this video with your friends so they can improve their IELTS score too. See you in the next video!